Who knew?
Traveling in Kentucky could be so much fun.
Hosted by Mary Engel and Dustin Long. Hey folks, we're standing here in Kenvoa, West Virginia in front of this beautiful Victorian home built in 1891.
Since 1978, owner Ric Griffith has gained national attention. What started out as a pumpkin display on his front porch has now become a town's tradition.
Where thousands of volunteers carve thousands of pumpkins each year for display around Halloween.
This tradition has been featured on national TV shows. The Pumpkin House, along with CK Autumn Fest, draw more than 30,000 visitors each year.
They show up each year around Halloween to see this beautiful house draped in thousands of lit jack-o'-lanterns. Entertainment for the young and old alike. Come with us as we tour this town of Kenvoa, West Virginia.
Here are some of the best restaurants Credo and Kenvoa have to offer. How about a homemade fountain soda?
The soda fountain was originally founded in 1829. Mr. and Mrs. Williams, currently owned by Ric Griffith, former mayor of Kenvoa. Restoration started on the soda fountain in 2002. It was finally finished in 2004. The 1923 old-fashioned soda fountain. We make everything here by hand, our milkshakes, our sodas.
All this is carbonated water, comes out of here. We put our 2 pumps of Coke syrup and then a half a pump of our cherry syrup, and then you got your cherry Coke.
Now Thomas, let's just see how good this is. Fantastic. Cheers.
How about a good old-fashioned hot dog and a root beer?
In 1932, when the husband and wife team of John Lewis and Gertrude Matz opened the first drive-in restaurant in Huntington, they purchased a little piece of land at 2445th Avenue and built at a cost of $1,750, a tiny orange building that still stands today. The menu consists of only 2 items, Stewart's famous root beer and popcorn. Sales for the first day totaled an unimpressive 50 cents. Hoping to do better the next year, the Matts added hot dogs to the menu, complete with Gertrude's mouth-watering chili sauce. Today, the business and the little orange building are still going strong, and so is Gertrude's mouth-watering sauce, still prepared from a secret recipe closely guarded by her great-grandson, John Matts Jr., the drive-in's 4th-generation owner.
Standing in front of the Family Skillet restaurant here in Cerrito Plaza, owner Shirley Ross has had many successes in the restaurant business, and her recipes are just good old home cooking. So if you're looking for good country cooking, get your belly full, come on out.
Check out these bed and breakfasts.
Looking for a place to stay? Well, we have the pick of the crop just for you.
I'm standing in front of the historic Z.D. Ramsdale house, which was built in 1858. And this house was part of the Underground Railroad back in the slave times. And it's said that there's a tunnel that leads from underneath this house out to the river, where the slaves would go through to get to the river to get over to Ohio. Also, it's said to have paranormal activity. This house is on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a great attraction. So come and see the Ramsdale house when you come to our event.
For those railroad enthusiasts, here is the place for you.
This is a 1907 Victorian house. It's railroad themed. It's got a lot of Smithsonian quality railroad artifacts throughout the premises, and you can get a hold of them through their website and make reservations and stay here at the bed and breakfast. Trainmaster's House, Kenvoa, West Virginia.
Here's what CK Fest and the Pumpkin House has to offer you.
We knew we had thousands of people coming to the community to see the Pumpkin House.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, Pumpkin House is something that no other town's got.
It's grown from 3 pumpkins on Ric's front porch to the big house where he is now and the 2,000 plus pumpkins.
Years ago, I told some of the good people at Cerrito Kenvoa We have the opposite problem of every little community in America. They have a festival and no crowd, and we have a crowd and no festival.
We had all these people here and that were coming to look at the pumpkin house. Let's provide them with even more and make this an even bigger event. So far we've been able to do that. Our parade has been growing. Each year the parade gets better and better.
Stay tuned.
And we have things just scattered all over town, both Cerrito and Kenvoa. And we have activities that are suitable for all ages.
Oh, I think our whole community benefits, and the surrounding communities. Not only from the direct benefit to the vendors and things like that, but just as a good family thing to do that is virtually free.
We seem to get people involved in the community looking for things, and they have a wonderful time.
I think we do it every year. We've done it the past 2 years. This is our third year, and it's just a fun chance to drive around our community and just see everything and do something together around Halloween.
This is a great opportunity for local crafters to showcase their items and make money, but it's just as good an opportunity for the community to come by and support it and maybe get some Christmas shopping done.
No matter the age, they have something here for everyone. Stay tuned.
Welcome back.
I'm Jason Eakers, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the Willie Joe Eakers Memorial Tractor Show.
Are you into cars or just cruising? Just take a look.
Cruising basically is just a place where all the gearheads get together and just hang out.
Great, it's a fantastic car show. The last few years it's one of the better car shows that I've seen around the tri-state.
Are you looking for a Halloween scare?
Some people like to get their scare on, some people don't. If you like it, then that might be a thing for you. A lot of scares to be found at the Nightmare Dreaming Haunted Trail.
We want this to be something that Cerrito and Kenvoa can be proud of for years to come. It isn't about living in a community in houses. It's about living in the community together and doing things and sharing things and enjoying those things together.
We want to invite everyone to come out and see the CK Autumn Fest. Become a part of it, whether you want to volunteer or come and look and see what we've done or be a contributor. We invite everyone to come and take a part. Spend a little time with us the last week of October.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back.
Pumpkin House has a history that's unexplainable. It started actually in 1978. I carved 4 pumpkins for myself, my wife, and my then 2 children, and began each year to add a few at a time. They went up to 12, then to 48, 50, and finally we reached 120. And then when I moved, there was a break for a couple of years when I was living above the pharmacy, and then when I moved to Beach Street into the Joseph Miller home, which is a historic home on the National Historic Registry. It was a home of Joseph Miller, a Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service and personal friend of President Grover Cleveland. I looked at the house and said, wow, just think how many pumpkins we can put on this old Victorian home. And it really got out of hand. We jumped to 500 and then to 1,000. For the year 2000, we went up to 2,000 pumpkins, and all the volunteers complained that it was overwhelming. So I didn't do 2,000 the next year, I did 3,000. And we've kind of stuck with that number, and they've quit complaining ever since.
The first year I came here, my husband drove me by the house, and I thought, my goodness, look at that, you know. But to see how hard Mr. Griffith works for the display, and the people who help him, not only the volunteers who help carve pumpkins, but we have to have, there's electricians, there are carpenters, there are people of various, occupations who are there to assist him with the displays to make sure that everything works according to his plan.
The Pumpkin House is year-round in many ways. I drive my children crazy with getting ideas during the course of a year. We'll be out to eat somewhere and we'll look at some object and I'll say, hey, that could be a pumpkin. And they'll say, Dad, please turn it off.
It attracts people from everywhere. I mean, he's had people from other countries. I think practically every state in the United States.
And they see this, and a lot of people can't believe that, Rick does all this and the pumpkins, and there's no charge for any of it. You just come and look and enjoy it. And of course, it takes a big volunteer base to do that.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, Pumpkin House is something that no other town's got.
Just driving by that house isn't all there is to that house. There's a lot of hard work.
In mid-September, we began assembling the shelves that will hold the pumpkins and erect the wall that will have the orchestra. This is the women's choir, the men's choir, the titles, and this year over here, I'm going to try to do a puzzle for people to try to solve. But there are 540 pumpkins in the wall, and each pumpkin has to be in its precise location, so I have to number them and then put Humpty back together again.
Who knew there would be a pumpkin symphony?
It has 32 circuits, and the 32 circuits each control a sound effect and a light. So when the orchestra is playing, say, the 1812 Overture, the violins will light when the violins play. The violins will go dark. If they're playing softly, the violin section that is drawn will be actually very, very dim in light. And as the volume of the music goes up, the brightness of the light increases. It's fun to watch because it will flash. I had a high school band teacher tell me one time that he brings his band each year to see it so that they can see the music, not just hear it, and try to pick out the instruments as they're playing. And so it's a lot of fun to watch.
Stay tuned.
I buy the pumpkins from a farmer who will deliver them to me in crates, in boxes that hold anywhere from 50 to, if it's a small pumpkin, 75 or 100 pumpkins. And then that's generally the first weekend in October. And for the next 3 weeks, my daughter and I will be in the backyard drawing the faces. We save notebooks. Each year we add drawings to the pumpkins, and I'll flip through the pages and then transcribe freehand onto the pumpkin. And people say, well, I can't believe you do that freehand. And I always tell them, we've done over 40,000 pumpkins. This year we'll pass, I think, 50,000 pumpkins. And if I can't draw a pumpkin face freehand by now, I need to quit. And then about 5 days before CK Autumn Fest, we will have the volunteers begin to show up. Kids will scoop the pumpkins. What we usually do is have hole saws to cut the bottoms out of the pumpkins. Then the kids will scoop them. Then they are transported back to the tables with the faces drawn on them for adults to use jigsaws and carve the pumpkins out of the jigsaws. Then we have volunteers who put them into large vats to rinse them. We put a little bit of actual bleach in the water in the hopes that that will retard the growth of mold and bacteria. I don't know if it works, but it makes us feel better. But then after they're drawn, we'll drain them and set them out onto the displays all through the yard.
You want to carve a pumpkin? Well, come on down and carve to your heart's content.
To me, one of the most enjoyable aspects of it is the volunteers. What a strange phenomenon that I get this queasy feeling every year after 3,000 pumpkins are delivered into the backyard and it's quiet, and I see all of the work that I know, the thousands of man hours that lie ahead of us, and I have this thought, what if it gets cold and rains for 2 solid weeks while we're doing this? And it's me, 3,000 pumpkins, and no volunteers. What am I going to do? It's never been a problem. We have had rain, we have had cold weather, we have had 90-degree heat, and the good people of our area show up, stand in the rain, stand in the blowing, blustery fall weather, and do everything they can to help us do that. I'm amazed. I estimate 600 or 700 people a year, most of whom I don't even know, just walk into my backyard and out of the kindness of their hearts say, what can I do to help?
It's pretty amazing to see the number of volunteers that come in, and youth groups, groups from Marshall University, church groups, individuals. I mean, it's just unbelievable the number of people that come to help scoop and build and carve, and it just, everything has to be done. It takes an army to do it.
I think it's also a learning experience for many of the young people that this hard work is what makes it possible.
There's always some interesting stories that you hear there about what this means, not just to children, but to adults too. How it brings that sense of childhood back to even senior adults that they remember.
People really enjoy this and take it serious. It's something that our area and our community is proud that we have, and so I think that's something that was totally unintended that we really enjoy. And a story along those lines too is, why do you do it? The closest we've come to a good explanation was provided to us by a lady on a walker who slowly made her way up my driveway into the backyard. And I was kneeling over a pumpkin, carving the design, and I looked up and this woman was standing over me with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Who owns this house?" My first thought was, oh no, a pumpkin's fallen off the roof. I'm going to get sued because it hit her grandson. And I sheepishly said, I do. And she said, I want to tell you something. As you grow up, you lose the wonderment of childhood. Never again do you feel like you did on Christmas morning or when you got your first bicycle. You don't have that same excitement. But today, I enjoyed this display so much. I had that feeling. And I recalled it from my childhood, and I just wanted to thank you. Well, I stood up and I started crying. And I hugged her and I said, ma'am, that's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to us about why we do that. We always think of the children, never the enjoyment of the adults. But we've had experiences like that that add a dimension we can't measure.
The massive amount of pumpkins is just unbelievable, because we had been here before, but we had just driven by, and the experience is completely different than walking, than driving by if you walk through. The intricacy of the way they carve the pumpkins, it's not just little triangles and a mouth. It's just, it's just amazing how the volunteers just put so much into it, and it's almost like it was professionally done.
It brings joy to the volunteers, to the community, and as I've said, I don't know how we could stop it now if we wanted to.
Don't you go away.
It's the most unstructured, structured thing in my life. I know what we need to do. I know when we need to do it. I have no idea if there's going to be anybody there to help us. You can come to the pumpkin house, scoop, carve, rinse, or move pumpkins to your heart's delight. We need volunteers, and we need volunteers because it is overwhelming, but it is also a wonderful experience of friendship, fun, jokes, and a lot of questions of why are we doing this? So we would love to have any volunteers we could get. Out of this craziness, a lot of love, a lot of joy has been generated, and the good people of CK Autumn Fest have expanded that into a dimension that we couldn't even have begun to imagine when we started.
I think it's turned out to be a really good draw, and again, it's free. And the people who carve and scoop and do all those things seem to have a really great time and come back year after year to volunteer.
So you want me to start?
Yeah, so I believe that covers it all, folks.
So me look in that camera
Yes.
and say.
So I want you to look right there and say those words to that camera.
I believe we covered it all, folks.
And I believe this is a wrap. Hey!
Join us as we take you to Credo.
Cut! Was built in Okay.
How about a good old...
Join us as we go.
Here are some of the best restaurants Credo and Kenvoa have to offer.
Here's what CK Fest.
Can we start it?
No, just leave it. Okay.
See what I didn't want to do?
Okay. Well, I think we finally covered it. What do you think?
No, sorry.
Hey! Ending. Or do you want to do a different ending?
No, that's fine.